it's good to see you, and thank you for having the time to come on, because obviously you're busy with the Rochdale by-election. I just really wanted to know, and I'm sure everyone here wants to know, what's your feeling on Rochdale, having gone there, been around, starting up your campaign. Obviously, the launch isn't till Tuesday officially, but you've had a look around and spoken to people. What do you think the prospects of a victory are for you?
Well, the launch isn't even happened yet, and yet it feels like the closing stages of the 2012 Bradford West by-election, which I won also on the 29th of the month, which I will hope to replicate in Rochdale on the 29th of this month. All kinds of people from all parts of the community are literally flocking to the colours. The going out on the street is problematic if you're in a hurry to get anywhere, because every single person knows who I am. Every single person knows that there's a by-election, and every single person is looking forward very much to using that by-election to send a shot across the whole world, a shot across the bows of the Keir Starmer Labour Party that Low Key was so eloquently describing there, sending a shot across the bows of Rishi Sunak, the inky-fingered clerk of empire, posing as Britain's Prime Minister, and to send a shot that will be heard in Palestine itself. And everyone's acutely aware of the ability that uniquely on the 29th they have. Of course, they're all on the protests. Of course, they're all flying the flags. Of course, they're all boycotting McDonald's and Starbucks and all the rest. But they have a unique ability to go even further than a protest or a boycott. They have the unique ability to alter the political situation in Britain. The Mail on Sunday, this very day, although you've got to pay to read it.
We put it on. We showed the picture, the whole thing. They're scared, aren't they?
I haven't read it because you'd have to pay the Mail to do so. But it's, from what I can see, indicating just the importance of this by-election, not just to Keir Starmer, but to Rishi Sunak, the government, and even the possibility of an early general election. So stakes could hardly be higher. They were very high, by the way, in Batley and Spen. I got 21.9% of the vote in that by-election. If I'd got 1% more, then Keir Starmer would no longer be the leader of the Labour Party. Just think about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The margins are quite fine on these things, and especially, I would suspect the turnout has been low. People are not enthusiastic for the two main parties, are they? I mean, they're not going to get a great turnout. So if you can get more people
even in the general election, Crispin, in the Rochdale constituency, the turnout was just 60%. Now, if you look at the turnouts in your own constituencies and around the country and the national average, that indicates the level of alienation in Rochdale, which has effectively been relegated from the national scene. Even their football team has dropped out of the leagues because of underinvestment and so on. The same is true of the town as a whole. The first time I spoke in Rochdale was almost 25 years ago. And I remember very well, vividly, going to a wonderful, bustling market after the speech that I gave in an early afternoon. That market no longer exists. We're talking boarded up shops. We're talking desolation row. We're talking levels of deprivation far higher than should be the case of a town 20 minutes from Manchester. Late last night, I was in the centre of Manchester, a bustling metropolis, one of the world's greatest cities. And 20 minutes away is Rochdale, which can be said to be a bleak house in this comparison. And that's what the people are alienated from. We have a council that spends £20 million on its own town hall, but can't afford a bucket of tar to fill potholes so large a dog could go to sleep quite safely in them through the night. The priorities of the so-called Labour Council and the priorities of the local political class have alienated the people. So it was tinder dry, waiting for a spark. And this by-election and our candidacy is looking like it is that spark.
Right. And just so people know how they can contribute and help your campaign, I believe the registration cutoff date is the 13th. Is that right?
That's our priority now, 12th of February, in fact.
12th,
our
sorry.
priority is to have a registration drive. Because, of course, with alienation always comes low levels of registration, and Labour like it that way. The Labour Council would prefer if nobody was registered to vote, or next to nobody. So we're on a big registration drive. People can help us with that. But there's campaign activities going on day and night, rain, hail, shine in Rochdale. And the headquarters is where the launch is tomorrow evening Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. And it's in Crawford Street. It's a Suzuki car dealership. Can't miss it. It's the biggest thing in that street. It's within eyeshot of the Labour campaign rooms. And I'm glad to say they're already pretty sick at the level of bustling activity that's going on in our rooms, which compares very vividly indeed with theirs. Quite a lot of the Labour members in Rochdale have suddenly caught COVID and retired to their beds for the next 3-4 weeks. And I'm quite pleased with that. It means that Labour has to bus paid people, councillors, staffs, MPs staffs to do the campaigning for them.
So I can't even imagine how it must be difficult as a Labour canvasser or door knocker to be asked, what about the genocide? I mean, it's not they haven't got they're not going to have a very easy ride when they go anywhere, are they?
Not many kids know the word genocide except in Rochdale. And I suspect we'll find this in many other places when the general election does come. Every child on a bike is shouting genocide Labour at the Labour MPs and councillors, and they cannot deny that. I have seen it with my own eyes. I saw it just yesterday afternoon in the Central Ward. Kids racing back and forward on their bikes, shouting, shouting genocide at Labour officials as they walk around. The kids in Rochdale know what genocide is. They've been watching it on Snapchat, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. They've been watching it for 120 days, which is a long time in the life of a young person. And they started off unable to quite believe what they were looking at, and they're now boiling with rage. And that's true from the oldest person you meet to the youngest kid that you meet. I'm one of those that was skeptical about the reduction of the voting age to 16 until this by-election. I wish we could reduce the voting age to 12 and we'd be looking at a landslide.
Yeah, well, they speak the truth. They don't have they don't get brainwashed by anyone, do they? Younger people seem to see right through what's happening.
That's right.
So,
all the
I'm just thinking.
All the filters of careerism have not descended on their eyes, and they cannot pretend that something isn't happening when they know that it is.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And look, I really want to get as many people to help me, because I think in my mind that what we call the left has been demoralized for and in a bit of a trauma after what happened to Jeremy and what's happened with everyone else who's been called anti-Semitic and smeared left, right, and centre, or left, left, and left. Um, all these people have felt demoralized. We've seen them on this show. We hear them on this show. This could be the time that we get our morale up again, and just in time for the general election. I mean, that's part of it, isn't it? It's getting our spirits up again.
Yes, it's time to get the electoral show back on the road, recapture the spirit of 2017, when Jeremy Corbyn took much of the country by storm and came so very close to becoming Prime Minister. Although we now know from Margaret Hodge, who inexplicably continues to be allowed to say these things, that she and her fellows did everything that they could to sabotage their own party's electoral victory in 2017. And she adds, for the first time, if Jeremy had won, they would have brought the government down immediately by defection and voting against their own party in a motion of confidence. But nonetheless, Corbyn came so very close. The spirit, the elan that was abroad at that time is being recaptured in the Rochdale by-election, and people should get there and feel it themselves, because it will benefit them as well as benefiting the campaign. And it will give hope to people all over the country, because there are all kinds of independent candidates now emerging in Ilford, in Bethnal Green, and I'm sure in many other places. There will be independent candidates that will be encouraged by a victory here to believe that they too can win a victory. And who knows then what the electoral fallout, the makeup of the House of Commons at that time will be. And with a bit of luck, we'll have a hung Parliament. And myself and these independent members of Parliament might have a disproportionate say in what happens next.
Just as an out of interest, I mean, I think the same. Hung Parliament's the ideal scenario, but would you think PR is the way forward after that?
I've got that since I've been campaigning for that since the 1970s. I actually told Tony Blair to his face and Gordon Brown in his ear that this was the time, the landslide Labour victory was the time to introduce proportional representation. I told them both that one of the takeaways from it will be that the Tories will never form a majority government again. I didn't add that it would allow genuinely socialist parties to enter Parliament for the first time, although, of course, I subsequently did that in 2005 and again in 2012, and I hope in 2024.